Can I tell you what I think is one of the greatest challenges of this conversation?
Yes.
The people who have the power and the money often have no idea what's going on at that base level.
Explain what you mean.
Well, I have no idea what the first day is like for somebody here. I've never been there. I didn't go through orientation. So I'm putting a lot of trust in others to design that, but I probably need to ask more questions about, like, maybe I should sit in for a day and ask myself the question, would I enjoy this? Welcome to the Glass House. I am so excited about this particular format that we are about to adopt for the next few weeks. We're calling it 10 and 10. And my promise to the customer, that's you, is that we are not going to go over 20 minutes here. We want these to be the kind of episodes you can grab like on the way to get your groceries. So it's kind of a TED Talk format. But here's the most fun part. Lynley has no idea what we're about to talk about. I'm bringing like a big idea, a leadership concept. She has, you can't see it, her yellow legal pad. She's going to write down a few notes because after I get finished, I'm going to ask her her thoughts about it, and we're going to banter about this. She's going to offer color commentary in only ways that Lynley Mandrell can.
A little bit like Lynley on the spot.
Are we ready for this?
We're going to find out.
You're going to love I've picked the first topic just for you.
Okay.
I mean, this is a softball of all
Gosh,
softballs
that feels
for you.
pressurized. Okay, I'm taking notes.
All right, here's the big idea. People love to enter a prepared atmosphere.
Okay.
It's a key leadership concept. People love to enter a prepared atmosphere. In the book of Proverbs, it says, a man's gift will make room for him. He will stand before kings. It's the idea in the Old Testament that when you went to a person's house, if you brought a gift, it showed that you were prepared. It demonstrated respect. So anytime we demonstrate hospitality in a way that we thought in advance of a person or we prepared an atmosphere, people love that. It's something that's very attractive. And I'm going to give you a couple examples. For spring break, I took one of our boys on a father-son golf trip. We went to 3 golf courses in 3 days, which is 18 holes each day, more golf than I normally do in a year or that I want to do in a year. I'm not a big golfer. But there's one course that I remember the most and that I will always remember because when we got to the golf carts, there were really nice bags full of range balls, carefully placed on the seats. There were logoed water bottles in the cup holders. The golf carts, you could tell they had spent more money on the inside of the golf cart because it was really, you're going to spend a lot of time in there. And I will remember that experience. I don't remember that much about the course. I just remember that they really thought a lot about the first impression we would have of the golf course. And it really stuck with me. Somebody who's really good at this is your mom, Debbie. Whenever we go to their house for the holidays, it's always amazing to me. Everybody has something on their beds. It might be a candy bar. It might be a book. It's some thoughtful way of saying, I knew you were coming and I wanted you to walk in and see that I was prepared for you. Even down to like she labels the remote control in the guest room of how to turn it on and off. Like there's a sticker. She's thought about all the problems. There are charger cords not just by the bed. They've been pulled up and placed on the bedside tables. She didn't want you to have to reach for it. This is what I'm talking about. People love to enter a prepared atmosphere. One last example. I had a professor in college. I'll never forget this. He was always standing at the front of the classroom as students would come in. There was something thoughtful written on the board. And I always was interested to see what he had written on the board. And as students came in, he would make eye contact. He was warm. You could tell he loved students and he was excited to get there first and be ready. In contrast to other professors who kind of came whisking in, on 2 wheels and were harried, and you could tell they were kind of running behind. He wanted to make sure he was prepared. One of my favorite ways to illustrate this is in the book Power of Moments, which we've talked about. And I want to read this page about, they make the point that you can't get a first day back. And this is what they say in there about first days. Judging from the stories we've heard from underwhelmed employees, what follows is a pretty typical description of a first day. You show up, the receptionist didn't think you were starting until next week. You're shown to a desk. There's a monitor and an Ethernet cable on the desk, but no computer. There's a single binder clip. The chair still bears the imprint of the previous owner, like an ergonomic buttocks fossil. I just love saying ergonomic buttocks fossil. That's funny. Your boss has not arrived yet. You're given an ethics and compliance manual to review. Why don't you read over this and I'll swing back in a few hours, says the receptionist. The sexual harassment policy is so long and comprehensive, it makes you wonder a bit about your colleagues. Eventually, a friendly person from your floor introduces herself and whisks you around the office, interrupting 11 different people in order to introduce you. As a result, you worry that you have managed to annoy all of your colleagues within the first hour of your employment. The lack of attention, here's the point. The lack of attention paid to an employee's first day is mind-boggling. And Lynley, I want to talk about this in terms of how this relates to the church. Because I think churches by nature are hospitality enterprises. You are inviting people into your space. You're inviting people to come, and they notice a lot about whether it's prepared or not. And it says a lot to them. And it's more than just like the quality of the programming. It has to do with posture. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about this because I think there's a lot of different applications for this principle of people like to walk into a prepared atmosphere. Last thing I'll say, and then I want to hear what you have to say. But years ago, I heard someone define romance as meeting a need before the person has to ask.
Like flowers?
Like flowers. No bitterness there. I got a lecture last week about my flowers game has really come down.
Well, it wasn't last week. It was a couple weeks ago.
Okay. But I did go and get you a nice piece at Kroger that day.
After I asked for them. Like,
Doesn't
what
count.
was your quote again?
I said it doesn't count as a touchdown, but maybe it's an extra
I know,
point.
but what was your quote again?
Oh.
Or say your quote.
I thought you were talking about the day I brought you flowers.
No, I said say your quote again.
Romance is meeting a need before you have to ask. So in what ways do churches miss this? They're not meeting needs before the person has to ask. What comes to mind?
Well, I'm going to deflect that question until later.
Okay.
Because this began, this 10 and 10 is like you've taught this stuff to leaders at Lifeway. So I'm a little more curious for you to expand on this a little bit. Like you're kind of going straight to my mom or things, but like what are your leadership principles at Lifeway? Like when you teach this to young leaders, tell me more about what you've said there in the workforce versus.
Well, I think it has a lot to do, like here when we talk about HR, human resources, like when we talk about how do we invite employees in, how do we make sure their first day is great, for their first week is great, their first one Lifeway gathering is great. Always trying to have eyes for what is it like to be new.
What's an example? How do you guys do that when you're talking to HR? Like, how do you make their first day great?
Well, I think we've made some big strides here. I mean, it's something that you're always working on, always trying to be better. But for example, unfortunately, a lot of times our orientation here now is by Zoom. Mm-hmm. And it has to be because people are all over the country. But we've added, like when we have twice a year, we have these big gatherings. We've added a special event for all the new employees on that day, just so they can meet each other, they can meet their bosses, they can be more like in-person quality. So I'm not saying it's easy.
Oh, I'm not.
It's something that we keep adding.
I'm not asking this to challenge you. I'm just asking you if the first 10 minutes are you kind of talking about leadership principles. What have you learned about this in the last 5 or 6 years, of how important this is, examples of it, of what you guys do here at Lifeway, that sort of thing. But we can transition easily to the church. That's what my question was.
No, I mean, I'm just learning this is super important. And if you're not intentional about it, if you don't think about it, it's like that story in The Power of Moments. It's not like that company sat down and said, let's figure out a way to like really ruin somebody's first day. Like nobody's meaning to be that way.
Right.
It's just that there's nobody with the gift of hospitality that is thinking about, I wonder what it's like to step in here on day one. So like, I don't think everybody has the gift of hospitality.
No.
But I think we all have a responsibility to practice that. Mm-hmm. So as I was saying all that, were there any like stories or thoughts that you had about this principle?
Well, 2 thoughts that I had. One, when you're talking about the golf cart story, those people, of course, spent more money on, personalizing it for you guys, but that's the one you remembered. So likely if you were to go back, you would say, I'm going to go back to that course because that was the best experience.
Definitely.
And so I think in our churches, we look at the bottom line. It's really hard when we're having to crunch numbers. And so you cut things that may be the thing that would draw people back. So I think that's one thing to consider. But I was laughing because just this morning, so little personal intel for the listener, I go to this fitness studio called Pure Barre every morning at 7 a.m. It's the same people every time. So they're my buddies. And we all now try to get there a few minutes early to just talk and visit. And somehow this got brought up today of how, we were talking about socks and how do they have Pure Barre on them or not, and they're labeled. And two of the ladies said, my husband's get free stuff all the time, but I hate it because it always has like the company's name on it, like company notepads or company water bottles or company coffee mugs, all that stuff. And they're like, I'm never going to use that. Like all these ladies were like, we'll never use those things. And so my question that I wrestle with in all of this is, are you going to have more bang for your buck if you give something at your church to first-time visitors that doesn't necessarily have a bold logo on it? Because then if it's something really good that they're going to remember, then they're going to think about the church versus like, I'm going to go home and take that mug and take it to Goodwill because I don't necessarily want that church mug in my really beautiful, West Elm set or Williams-Sonoma.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's one where I go in this hospitality is like, how do we meet the needs of people versus making ourselves an advertisement?
I definitely think a lot of swag is a waste of money.
Yes.
I mean, there's so much money spent on swag.
And so do we cut back on swag and make a better experience?
Right.
Like the golf cart. That's my question is,
I mean, those were like $1 water bottles with like their logo
with
sticker around
a
it.
sticker around, which is fine.
And it was practical. Like we needed water.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like junk. Would I wear a T-shirt that said, their golf club on it? Probably not.
Right. So, I mean, if you are listening and you're a church person and you have, a certain amount of money for VBS, would you rather your people have a better experience, the kids have a better experience? So if you have to spend more in some areas versus all the leaders having the same matching VBS shirt, like, do they have to have that? I get it if they all have to have a color shirt on or a church shirt that maybe everyone already has. But that was something that we gave up. Like one year we had shirts that was just volunteer and like it was the VOL on the front and then UNT and the EER. And it was real cute. But we just told people wear those over and over again. So we just wore them year after year. They weren't customized. And it saved us a lot of money when you don't have to do that. And then people still end up like forgetting to wear them. So
can I tell you what I think is one of the greatest challenges of this conversation?
Yes.
The people who have the power and the money often have no idea what's going on at that base level.
Explain what you mean.
Well, I have no idea what the first day is like for somebody here. I've never been there. I didn't go through orientation. So I'm putting a lot of trust in others to design that, but I probably need to ask more questions about like, maybe I should sit in for a day and ask myself the question, would I enjoy this? You think about pastors or ministry leaders, they're probably not thinking a ton about what is it like to pull into this parking lot, walk through those doors, and find their way. Like they're just thinking about getting their sermon ready.
Do people want to be called out for being their first day?
I don't think so.
Do they want to put their flashers on or their whatever on? Like it's just the whole question. I mean, that's the thing I love so much about at Visioneering when we go into a church and I've talked about this on here before, but I don't remember what exercise or what episode, but we, do this kind of ink blot testing and you put up 5 pictures of just random things that people respond to quickly and then a picture of like their dimly lit bathroom or something. And people are taken out of context like, oh, is that what our church looks like to a newcomer? And so, how does an ELT team member or you know what it's like to be a customer service first day person? Or how does a pastor or a kids ministry leader that's been in the position for 20 years, how do they go back and re-experience something? I mean, I do think that it's important to have kind of secret shopper type people hire someone or find a friend that maybe doesn't go to your church to say, come to our space this coming Sunday and walk through and tell us, what was hard and easy.
Let's talk about a couple other areas that this might be applicable in the church. Like where are we missing it with preparing an atmosphere?
Well, I mean, I think there's any time that groups are gathering, then that's where we need to be, paying attention to it. And so one person mentioned to me the worship ministry. There's rehearsals ahead of time. Some of those people on Wednesday night come straight from work. Are there snacks? Are there drinks there? Are the folders they need on their chair or in an organized manner wherever they store them? Or are they just kind of stacked where you have to dig 10 through to find your, the alto section or whatever? I think in small groups, either way, if you're on campus or if you're off campus, are you meeting in a home or in a room that they're thinking ahead of time? Is the TV already set up? I was in a small group recently, and sometimes technology is just technology and you can't be helped. But we spent 15 minutes trying to get a video to play, until finally I had to say, why don't we just skip the video? We can all watch that later. Because we were wasting time, trying to hook up a computer right. I think in nurseries, I think in kids ministry rooms, having a form ready to go that says, hey, this is what this baby needs. They need a bottle at 10 a.m. They need, Cheerios or whatever, so that you're not relying on 2 volunteers to remember the needs of 12 babies, which actually would be illegal, but you know what I mean. As in when did this baby need that?
You know what you did really well when we were in church work? When you were the children's leader, there's always that child that comes in and doesn't want to just run around the room or play with toys. You always had a little table with coloring sheets or something for that child who just needs something to engage with right away.
They're scared.
Right. So it's less intimidating to just come over and do something rather than stand there with my hands in my pockets.
And there was always a teacher prepared. So if we walked a new family in and the child was nervous, they were scared to leave mom, we could always say, there's this, but also if you just want to sit here and color and kind of gather your thoughts and observe what's happening, here's what, we have a teacher that can help do that.
I would say this, pastors have to work hard at this as well, because pastors like to preach through books of the Bible. And how deflating is it when you come in for the first Sunday and the pastor's opening line is this? So we're in the middle of the study on Romans today, and I'm picking up in chapter 8.
This happened just recently, and a pastor said, we've all been in blank book. And I'm like, well, we hadn't been there.
Right.
So I didn't know that. But okay, we're all here.
It's a form of hospitality to provide a quick summary of where we've been, to say, hey, if you're joining us here today, it's okay, no problem. We've been studying Romans, and here are the main ideas. And so today we're jumping into this idea. Mm-hmm. There's a lot you can do with language to just make sure people know that they're not ruining the party by coming in halfway. Mm-hmm. It's just an intentionality that you have to develop. You have to develop eyes to see all those things.
We visited a church recently in Birmingham with Max, and I found it impossible to find the worship center. The parking is all over. Fortunately for them, they're growing, and they've got parking just kind of everywhere, but they don't have good signage. Wayfinding, that's what we call it.
There was no one out in the parking lot to say, hey, worship center this way.
Yeah, so we think about signage as in, cutesy, but we call it wayfinding, and you have to help people find their way. And so that sort of thing. And so, when you're talking about a prepared atmosphere, I think within the church, the best thing to think about is getting someone to come on site on a Sunday morning and experience the whole thing. Go through the youth, go through the kids, go through whatever. Are the check-in stations log jammed? Are they whatever? And
Can I ask something though?
Yeah.
I don't know that it has to be a secret shopper. I've often found when I was a pastor, it's the people who are new. They've been there a couple of months.
That's
that if you
better.
sit down and ask them, I genuinely want to know, what was it like for you to come on campus the first time, to try to find a Sunday school class or whatever? Mm-hmm. They will normally find it satisfying that someone asked them their opinion, because they do notice things.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really honorable way to have people come in to say, you've been so faithful the last few weeks. And, we're just trying to make sure that our processes are smooth, our strategies are clear, and can you just walk through this and tell me what you found to be helpful and what you found was really kind of clunky?
I think it's really intimidating to go into any organization for the first time, whether it's a church or whether it's Lifeway as an employee. There's just all kinds of insecurity and fear. And then there also tends to be a lot of what feels like inefficiency and wasted time. Our son got a job at a retail place, and for training, they put him in a back room, no windows, in front of an old Dell computer. And he just watched training videos for hours. Mm-hmm. And I just remember thinking, there has to be a better way to train an 18-year-old boy than to stick him in front of a computer with nobody around. There's just got to be a better way. So I
But
think
it's
part
what
of it
we've
is
always
that.
done.
Yeah.
That's what the churches are going to say. Well, it's just the way we've always done it.
I think you're talking about procedure, and I think that's important. I think another place is space, though. I was surprised the number of college visits we've done over the last couple of years. Some of the top tier schools that we went to.
And their room is like a conference room.
The room they had us sitting in was aesthetically not pleasing. The lighting was poor, and the speaker was not eloquent. And I'm thinking, you're wanting me to pay $60,000 a year for my kid to go here, and you can't find a person that can talk out loud?
Well, one of them was remarkably talented. She was the fastest talker we've ever heard.
Oh my gosh, when I got out, my ears were ringing. I was like, thank you for stopping. And then I don't know. I know I can be a real opinionated person about decor, but
I think you're more opinionated about speaking.
well, it was that, but it was also just the room. I'm like, honestly, I'm going to brag on the University of Tennessee here. Come on, go Vols.
Yes.
They have built the most amazing building that you enter in for that first impression. I mean, it's futuristic, it's clean, the screens are LED giant, it's colorful. Everything after that, every other school we toured, I felt like really didn't hit that standard in terms of presentation. And I'm just making this point. You know, we put a lot of shame on ourselves, like we're not growing as an organization or we're not growing as a church. And it could be as simple as the front door needs paint.
Or a sign.
Yeah.
I
And when I
think
say,
more of
I'm
a
saying
sign,
that like
yeah.
metaphorically, like
Right.
the first day of a person's experience, maybe we need to revisit that.
Or the money is going in the wrong way, wrong direction, the way you're spending stuff. I mean, I always find it that I would rather go to a more simple, intentional banquet type thing than a really fancy one that we watch the same slideshow over and over and over again. I remember this happened to us. There was an event, they flew us to it, and this.
1 minute.
Oh,
We're
shoot.
gonna keep this promise.
Okay, and the slideshow circulated probably the same 10 pictures for at least 60 minutes. And I mean, I was like, who did this? They did not have any more pictures for this person than that.
Yeah.
To tell a
I
story.
remember that.
Like to just tell a
You
story.
were in pain through that entire presentation.
For numerous reasons, but that was one of them. And so, but it was fancy. We had fancy china, fancy food, fancy attire, and, you know,
in 4 pictures.
a real bad slideshow. So
Going
anyway,
over and
okay,
over.
we'll wrap it up then if we're down to a minute.
I think we've made our point. Just think about in your ministry, all the different areas where you may have taken your eye off the ball. What's it like to be here for the first time? First time guest, first time visitor, whatever. These are really important questions when it comes to hospitality. The Glass House is executive produced by Angie Elkins, edited and engineered by Donnie Gordon with help from Nathan Howard. Show notes and production help from Nikki Ogden. Photography by Emily Bergeron and Bailey Watley. Recorded at the Lifeway Podcast Studio in Brentwood, Tennessee.